My grandpa was a racist, and when I was 17 years old, my mom told him that he better get over it because his granddaughter was likely going to marry a black person. My grandfather disowned me. He did not speak to me again until the day that he died, when he fell asleep in his pool chair, dropped a cigarette onto the chair, and he burned alive at 92 years old. But he forgot to write me out of the will, and I got $5,000. Here is to breaking generational curses and fuck racism.
I just wanted to ask you about how you guys were able to raise us and you aren't racist. I mean, that's a big thing right now because, racism is kind of driving our government, our administration, the ICE raids. How did people your age coming from wherever you came from, what were your thoughts when you were raising us that we didn't grow up thinking that we were different or better or anything?
Well, our thoughts were that we had black students in the high school we went to, and some very prominent ones. And it came a little while later, after we graduated from high school, one of the graduates there, a black man, donated, I think, all the money that took to the African American Museum in Washington, D.C.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What was his name?
I couldn't put it out.
But he went to, what was your high school?
East High School, Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
This was probably 15 years after we graduated.
Oh, okay. But you guys went to the same high school, right, Mom?
Yeah.
In my case,
Food flying.
in my case, I was on a wrestling team in high school, and one of our wrestlers was Leroy Haynes, I think that was his name, and he and I were always partners in practice, and so we were going to, this was Denver, Colorado, we were going to somewhere in eastern Colorado, eastern Colorado, to a high school, and we were going to wrestle with another school, and I had, when you go on a trip like that, you have to have lodgings, because you're there several days. So Clifford and I were going to lodge together. He black and I white, and never thought about it until my mother found out and raised hell at the school. And I can't remember the results. I think we ended up not even going.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And how did that make you feel?
I've accepted it as that's what it was with her, but I hated my mother all the time. It didn't change my hate for her because she was a mean, evil stepmother.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing great wherever you are watching us from. Have you ever wondered what happens when the racism people that try to hide inside their families finally get exposed? Some of these stories are disturbing because they show that racism isn't always loud or public. Sometimes it happens right inside the home, behind closed doors where people think nobody is listening. And today, I want to talk about why these stories matters and why breaking that circle starts with telling the truth. Anyway, guys, let's dive straight into the video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like and share the video to help the channel out. I'll be back with my commentaries.
Yeah, but a lot of even mom had a great mom, but also there was a lot of racism in those days, right, Mom?
Mm-hmm.
I remember you telling me a story about growing up. You mean you grow up and you not racist at all with me, but that's not how Grammy was.
No. I think most of their friends were prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
I think they all were kind of like that.
I think you're right, very much so. But they're good people, but they're not our kind of people.
Right. Separate but equal.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I ever heard a racial slur was from your mom. when I was little. Do you remember
Okay.
that? Like sitting around the table, and Mom was like, "You were horrified."
Well, that's what she said.
And Mom like brought me aside, and she's like, I mean, I never even heard that word used, and my grandma was using it.
Yeah.
Your evil stepmom.
And the word was
N-word.
N-word.
Mm-hmm.
And I had several friends in high school that were pretty cool. And when I went to college, some of them were still with me. And yet, anytime my mother would say, this is my evil stepmother, by the way. Anytime that she would use the N-word, she would always lower her voice.
Because she knew it was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
She knew she
And
was
yet,
a bigot.
she grew up at one time, fairly well-off people. Had a very large 3-story house in Bonita, Oklahoma. And when I was a young kid and we'd go down there, she had to live in maids.
Mm-hmm.
A maid and a cook. And they were just wonderful people to them, you know, because
They
you
were
know,
her
subjects.
servants. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mom, didn't you want to invite your friend over for a birthday party or something? Isn't that what happened? Then you found out how your mom felt.
Didn't want it to happen. Didn't want it to happen, sorry.
Yeah, so tell that story.
I don't remember that well enough to tell it, but she was, this girl was smart and terrific student, and suddenly I couldn't have her to my party.
How does that make you feel? How did that make you feel?
I was devastated and mad at my mom.
And that kind of devastation is because you have to admit to everybody, but your mom was that way.
Yeah. But when you guys raised us, we never talked about it. Like, it was just kind of by osmosis that I didn't even know there was racism in California because I never heard it in the house and you never said anything. I only remember hearing you one time talking to somebody on the phone, and there was a black family that was looking at the house on the street, and you're like, I hope they move in because that'll really piss off so-and-so.
Yeah.
So I was trying to put the pieces together.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Subsequently in college, there were a lot more people in college.
Multicultural people.
Multicultural, yeah. And it was just, we'd chat with them, and we would go to the candy store or the bar or stuff like that, and it was no issue.
Mm-hmm.
But again, my evil stepmother, was raised in Oklahoma,
Yeah, she was a southerner.
and
Yeah.
it was just, even when she'd say the N-word, it'd lower her voice. And yet the two that were servants in her home as she grew up were good people.
Right. Yeah.
But they used the word to describe them.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about people your age today that are still, wanting the immigrants gone and still have racist tendencies? And
I don't know how a thinking person could ever believe that, but we know they do.
yeah, they do. There's still this white supremacy ideal in so many people.
And
Yeah.
people who, well, like my mother, would not claim at all that she was prejudiced.
I know.
It was just because they're lower class people and they're good.
The one she
Use the
knows.
word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one she knows. Yeah.
So that's a tough one to call. And as I say, in the Navy, there were probably 200 people in the ship, and I imagine there were 24 of those people. And yet,
Black people.
huh?
Black,
Yeah,
white,
people.
Mexican.
Yeah, and yet you're all the same. You're all pulling for the same thing. Something bad happens, you got to turn to it
Mm-hmm.
and go to work and see if we can save this ship and stuff like that. And we had a black man on the ship, pretty young, probably 22 years old, and a big guy. And I heard one day somebody was screaming. We were just like somebody was out of their mind, screaming loud. And it turned out that there was a guy going into a small compartment, and this was a white guy. And he went down a small compartment, and then he accidentally dropped a canister of might have been carbon dioxide, but some gas, and screaming, and nobody did anything. And this undesirable guy went in, grabbed him, big guy, threw him right up out of the hole, visibly threw the whole guy's body up and saved his life.
Wow.
And we thought that was very cool.
Not undesirable.
I'll say,
Thanks for not raising me with racism, you guys.
you're welcome, sir.
You definitely didn't prepare me for the world, though.
Yeah. The world didn't get prepared for you.
Here is some other crazy shit that my racist dad said when I was growing up. 100%, he told me, I think in high school, if I ever brought a black man home as a potential romantic partner, that he would be disappointed. He didn't say, like, don't do that, but he was like, that would be really disappointing to me. When Obama won the presidency, I remember, I was literally in middle school. I was like 12 or 13. And I used to hate being in the car with my dad because we were trapped, right? Like we were just trapped and we couldn't get away. And like he would really utilize his time in the car with us to like lecture and like spew this hate. And I remember he was always so pissed that Barack Obama's middle name is Hussein. And I remember him being like, Ali, his middle name is Hussein. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know what that, like, he was always expecting us to be as, like, outraged as him, but, like, we genuinely, like, didn't understand. I remember one time, my neighbor was a black girl. Her name was Felicia. She was hella sweet. She would come over and be like, hey, can Allie come out to play, da-da-da-da-da. And I remember one time she had a sty in her eye, and, like, my dad saw it and was like, you shouldn't go in her house. Like, she's dirty. Like, do you see that she has that? Like, don't touch any of her stuff, and, like, you shouldn't go in the house. Trigger warning. This is where it gets kind of, like, really bad. Like, really bad. My dad didn't think he was racist, right? Because he had, like, a black friend, and he used to say to me and my brother, there is a difference between black people and hard R. There is a difference between black people and black people. Dress nicely, speak white, basically. Hey, stop. Have good jobs, are educated. Those are black people. I'm fine with black people. These are thugs and ghetto and would rob you and would you and that whole like super predator bullshit. Like these people they're on drugs, they're dirty. Like that's the difference. We can be friends with black people, but like basically they're not even people. Like there was a very clear distinction in his mind, and he wasn't racist because he was friends with black people. He used to ask me from a very young age if I was a Democrat or Republican. The correct answer is Republican. And he would ask me that all the time growing up. Like when I was like 10, 11, he'd be like, you're a Republican, right, Allie? And I'd be like, yeah, I don't know what that means. But it was this super early indoctrination. And then specifically, I remember, this was when I was in high school, at the Thanksgiving dinner table, he called people in the Middle East sand N-word. And like I was like, Dad, that is so messed up. Like, what are you saying right now? Like, that, do not say that. Like, what is wrong with you? And he was like, what? They are. And it was just like, it was bad. It was really bad.
5 years ago, I was scrolling on Facebook and I came across a post from a girl that I used to be best friends with when I was in the first grade. And the post said, "What is your earliest childhood memory of experiencing racism?" And she said, when I was in first grade, my best friend came to school one day and told me that she could no longer be my friend because I was black. My heart broke into a million pieces when I read that, and it really, really hurts to know that something so traumatizing and awful that happened to her as a child is attached to me, even though that was not something that I did, something that I wanted. I loved her. She was my very first girl best friend, and that was not a decision that I made. My dad called the school, and it was such a huge ordeal. He tried to get me put in a different classroom away from her, and I can't believe like that something so evil and terrible that happened to her, like her very first time ever realizing that she's going to be treated differently because of the color of her skin, has my name attached to it. The way that my dad even found out about that is my earliest childhood memory. I don't remember anything else before this day. I was sitting at the dinner table with my family, and I would talk about her, but I would never say her name, or I would use a fake name. My mom knew that I was friends with this girl and that she was black, and she would tell me, like, never tell your dad. And we're sitting at the dinner table, and I accidentally slip and say her name, and my dad looked at me, and he was like, "Is she black?" And I said, "Yes," and he slapped me across the face. That was so scary. I was terrified. I grew up in a household where we couldn't watch TV shows that were black. Like, I didn't watch That's So Raven. Like, I wasn't allowed to watch The Proud Family. I loved Little Bill, but I wasn't allowed to watch it. And so it would come on half hour before my dad came home from work. And if he came home even like a little bit earlier, I would have the remote ready in case like he walked through the door, I could change the station. I had to pretend like Jump In wasn't my favorite movie because my dad would have beat my ass. I hid everything from him. He has no idea who I am to this day. Like, I never was ever transparent with my dad about anything. I continued to hide everything from him my entire life, and it's really crazy. I have 2 parents on this earth that are alive and breathing and don't know me or anything about me.
I am white, and I was born into a white family with a racist white father who hated black people and used the N-word in his everyday vocabulary. My oldest brother, who ended up sexually assaulting me when I was 17 years old, his username on his laptop, or his password to his laptop, used to be DTAF, which was Death to All FAGS. Every single person in my family supports Trump actively and loudly. And even after being through all that, I am still smart enough and have my own head on my shoulders and can use my brain and do my own research to determine that all of those things are bad. I was raised to believe they weren't, and as I grew up, I realized that they in fact are. It doesn't matter what your family thinks or believes or who you come from, the world of opportunity at your hands.
Let's talk about an uncomfortable aspect of racism. Some white people who have black children, even if they've birthed them, are racist. Yeah, not all of them, but a lot of them are. A lot of them just like to fetishize black people, thinking that, you know, I am just sexually attracted to them, but I don't have to treat them as human. I sat there my whole life watching my own mother do this to my brother. And it's really unfortunate because every single time they had a fight, what word do you think she used? I'll give you a hint. It starts with an N. And she birthed this man. She birthed this man, and she treated him like he was a dog his whole life, and still continues to do so. Why do you think that he moved 2,000 miles away immediately after college and never came back? Because a lot of white people out there just like to have black children just so that they can say they have black children. But a lot of y'all don't even want to talk about it. And again, it's not every white person, but a lot of you love to do this. For example, one time I was seeing a black guy, my mom caught wind of it, and she goes, "Oh my God, I want black grandbabies so bad." I was literally just seeing this guy. That was it. And she wanted to use black grandbabies as a trophy, to be like, "I have black grandbabies. What are you talking about? These people aren't trophies. You shouldn't treat them like, oh my God, it's so taboo. Look at me. I have black family." It's not like that. They're people. And it's so more prevalent than you think it is.
Racists will make exceptions to their racism. I'm mixed black and white, and I was raised by my white family, and several of my family members are racist. No, not all of my white family members are racist. However, there are a large number of them that are racist. They'll never admit it, but they are, just like most racists. And one of the reasons that they'll use to justify the fact that they're not racist is their love for me and my siblings, or their black friends, or the black people that they choose to date romantically. So I was 5 or 6, and kids, we all used to play with everybody in the neighborhood. So we're outside playing, we're doing our thing in my great-grandparents' yard. I go inside to get me a drink of water, and my pawpaw, that's what I call him, my pawpaw looks at me and he says, "Get them ninjas, hard ERs, out of my yard." Mind you, I'm a child. That was my first time ever hearing that word. And I was so confused. I said, "Pawpaw, what's a hard ER?" I remember my mama, his wife, she would say, she was the sweetest lady ever. However, she was complicit in it. She said, "Don't worry about it. You just go outside and play. Don't worry about that." So I went outside. I went back outside with my friends, and I said, "Y'all, my papa said we got to get out of his yard." So we all went over to the neighbor's house. I did not understand until I was older and started reflecting and looking back just how fucked up that was. And y'all, that's just one story of many. Now that I'm older, I reflect on so much, and I'm sorry. I'm on my healing journey. I'm trying my damnedest. But I know there's a lot of y'all that resonate with this same exact thing. If y'all want to tell y'all stories, I would love to hear them. I would love to talk about it. Some shared experiences. Y'all. I'm telling y'all, y'all don't understand just how deep racism cuts. Especially from people who love you and make you exceptions to their hatred. And I'm having the toughest time as an adult navigating that side of my family. I will be discussing this topic a lot more because it is time for me to heal from some shit. And I have stayed quiet on it for so long because I did not want those people who claim to love me unconditionally to feel any type of way. And you know what? It's my fucking truth. It's my truth, my lived experiences. I will speak on it because it's real shit that happens every day.
Welcome back, guys. What really stood out to me about these stories is that we are not talking about strangers on the internet. We are talking about people's own parents, grandparents, and family members. And that's what makes this conversation so uncomfortable. Because when you are raised in a household where certain people are constantly described as dangerous, inferior, or somehow less deserving of respect, a child doesn't automatically understand that what they are hearing is wrong. To that child, that's just what mom says. That's what dad says. That's what grandma believes. And when those ideas are repeated years after years, they can become normal. One of these stories that really caught my attention was about a young girl who mentioned that her best friend was black, and her father reacted by slapping her and trying to get her moved to another classroom. A child is simply saying, "This is my friend," and an adult responds with an anger because of the color of the skin. That's not something a child naturally comes into the world believing. That's something they are taught. And that's why I think we have to talk about generational racism honestly. Another thing that stood out to me was how some people describe relatives who would use racial slur privately, but then try to convince themselves they weren't racist because they had one black friend, co-worker, or acquaintance they like. And let's be real, Having one person you like doesn't automatically erase prejudice towards millions of other people. You can treat one person well and still carry deeply prejudiced belief about another entire group. That's one of the biggest contradiction in this story. You will hear someone say, I'm not a racist. I have black friends. Okay, but how do you talk about black people when those friends aren't around? What did your child hear at the dinner table? What jokes were being made behind closed doors? What did you teach your kids about who they should date, marry, live around, or be friends with? Because that's where the real story often comes out. Do I continue defending what I was taught, or do I admit that some of the things I was taught were wrong? That second choice takes courage because challenging racism within your own family can be extremely uncomfortable. You may have to look at people you love and say, I respect you as a person, but I cannot accept what you are saying. And that's not about hating anybody. It's about refusing to pass the same poison down to the next generation. I've heard enough stories and experienced enough situations to know that racism isn't always going to look like somebody screaming at you in public. Sometimes it looks like a joke. Sometimes it's a warning about who you shouldn't date. Sometimes it's a family member suddenly becoming uncomfortable when their children brings home a black friend. Sometimes it's an awkward silence when somebody says something offensive and everyone pretend they didn't hear it. But silence can teach too. And that's why I believe confronting these things matters. Not because we are trying to destroy families, not because we are trying to shame every white person, but because if something is wrong, we should be able to call it wrong. The goal should be simple. Don't inherit hatred just because somebody handed it to you. Question it, challenge it, and most importantly, don't pass it to your own children because every generation has a choice about what it carries forward and what it finally decides to leave behind. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this video? Drop your thoughts in the comment section and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Like and share the video to help the channel out. See you in my next video. For now, peace.